Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome for today's session. So I hope you've gone through the material that was shared with all of you, right? Industrial Revolution, French Revolution and period of enlightenment. And you must be finding it quite simplistic, like going through it once and grabbing or grasping the entire content in totality, like one lucid go and you understand every bit, right? So what was explained yesterday and when you connected it with what was written, you must be finding it simplistic. The language was there, so it must have been a wholesome understanding, right? So any doubts related to that specific area? Any questions? Good afternoon, Basanta. All the regional centers, all of you, Shillong, Itanagar, Lucknow, Kochi, Dharwad and Dehradun, Muatupura, Kochi, all of you. Welcome. And Dehradun, yes, that is there. All the like online students, scientific study of society and systematic study of society. Both are one and the same. When we are talking about scientific study of society or systematic study of society, we imply to say that it is associated with understanding whatever is going on in the society by observing it, by analyzing it, by sometimes even collecting it with data and supporting it accordingly. Means you are not accepting things right on the face value, you are also cross-checking it, you are verifying it. And then when you establish a concept, then it becomes sociological. All right. So that's something which we all can consider. All right. Any other queries related to what has been taught? What is positivism? We will be discussing about it in the second chapter in greater detail. Simply speaking, when you try to study sociology from the methods of natural science, that approach is referred as positivism. So positivists, they tried to study society just like physics or chemistry or biology is studied by collecting data, verifying data, cross-checking data, means with objective methods. But there is a limit to studying society with objective methods. Why? Because there is a lot of human subjectivity involved in every individual's reaction. And that's why the later day sociologists, they do not believe that sociology or the science of society should be studied only with objective methods. Subjectivity should be the core of understanding the society. For example, let us consider, if like we ask that where is the studio, okay? So where is the studio from where the lecture is getting conducted and the classroom is situated? We'll be like Delhi, right? So this area which is New Delhi, this place from where lecture is getting conducted, we all can understand that this is an objective reality. Can we change it? Can we say that this is Agra or this is Tamil Nadu or like let's say to be specific this is Chennai? We can't do that, right? This is an objective reality. But what is subjectivity? Subjectivity is when human beings respond differently to the similar situation. Let me give you a silly example. Let us say there is an individual and someone slaps him, okay? So there's a fair chance the person may become aggressive, okay, and hits back, punches back. How dare you slap me? Then another individual is getting slapped and the person like, don't hit me, and runs away, right? And the third individual is like, he is being slapped and he ducks down, holds the hand firmly and then asks, what's wrong with you, dude? Why are you indulging in violence? Let's have a talk. Three individuals having three different responses in the same situation. That's the beauty of society. When we speak of human beings and the society is comprising of different human beings, thus there can be a difference in the systems of response. That is why it was considered that studying the society from only natural science methods or objective methods is not justified. We should go for studying the subjectivity as well. That is, non-positivist methods should also be laced in. Okay, that's something which we'll get introduced to when we are discussing this new chapter today, that is the scope of sociology, and the elaboration of it will be entertained in chapter 2 when we'll be discussing what is positivist methodology and non-positivist methodology and who all thinkers are associated with it, what all they are saying. So it will get elaborated. Simply speaking, because this term you have to memorize for long, just remember having the approach of natural science, positivism, plus some ion is getting charged, so plus something like that connected with natural science, okay, And when we speak of non-positivism, it is associated with subjective interpretation and learning of the society. All right. How can we write valuable answers to gain higher marks? Okay, so that will vary from, I would say, topic to topic, because the aspiration of every topic will differ. Like, let's say the examiner is asking that discuss the scope of sociology. So you'll be discussing about scope of sociology by and large. What is the scope? How in different phases or different eras the scope of sociology got redefined. But if the examiner says that in the 21st century, the scope of sociology also has also redefined itself. So the moment the person is saying that in the 21st century, the scope of sociology has also redefined itself. Now if some student is writing, what is the meaning of scope? Or like, let's say if one sentence is going in meaning of scope of sociology, chalega. But if someone is discussing about scope of sociology in 19th century, 20th century, even though the information is correct, it is garbage with respect to the question. You don't have to write something just because you know it. You have to write what is valid, what is relevant to the topic. Anything haywire will be like not marked, or you will get negative marking because you are unable to recall the core of the answer. One. Second, when we are discussing about it, with respect to this scope of sociology, when we discuss about it with respect to contemporary phenomena, you will have to understand, recall and analyze from different chapters, not only from something which is being taught here, but from different chapters in paper 1 and paper 2, that what current phenomena ma'am taught, like let's say in family, marriage, kinship, like let's say in the chapter of political system, in the chapter of social change, what all new topics she taught which is relevant to 21st century. What different sociologists have said about it, how the idea has redefined itself, that what should be studied and how it should be studied, how new topics, new subjects, new areas of interest have got incorporated, like the concerns of 21st century. For example, cybercrime, that was not something which was related to 20th century, right? So is cybercrime also a matter of sociological concern? The new systems of banking, right, cryptocurrency, are they a matter of sociological concern? Are they impacting the society and its phenomena accordingly? Okay, and if people have started studying it, new patterns of crime, okay, new forms of organizations, new versions of sects and cults coming into existence, right? So we can say new educational institutions which are talking about lifelong learning. So if every institution is redefining itself and new topics, new areas of concerns are getting added and they are being systematically studied, that means the 21st century is redefining the scope of sociology, the area of sociology, the subject matter of sociology, the concerns of sociology. So you have to write this part. You don't have to write the background, what happened in 19th century, 20th century. So when you ask this specific dimension that, ma'am, how to write valuable answers, the root first starts from understanding and interpreting the question correctly. Understanding the essence of the question, it applies to GS also, not just sociology. It applies to essay also. It applies to your interview as well. First, understanding that what does the examiner aspire to understand? What is the examiner truly asking from me? When the examiner is able to communicate like what the person wants to ask from you, and you have received the information or received what the examiner is aspiring to understand, you have received it correctly, then recall all that you have studied. Not necessarily in the chapter, even beyond. If that concept is connected to other chapters, rack your brain, recall the information, align it, and then present it. In the process, if you put in, like I would say, if you incorporate some insights, like let's say some name of sociologist or some other research body or a research paper, you bring in sociological validity. Because again, going back to the root, what is the topic? The topic is science of society. Or what is the subject? Science of society. Sociology, right? So sociology, what does it mean? Science of society, right? It means systematic study of society. So systematic study of society or science of society can be scientific, or systematic when you are able to prove that what you are saying is not something commonsensical, but something which can be validated. So have you done the research? No. Okay, then who has done the research? Either the researchers, thinkers, sociologists, right? So either they have done the research, and then when those researchers are talking about a specific topic, in that situation, when you quote that researcher, then what happens? You bring in sociological validity. That okay, I have not done the research, but I'm not saying things out of the blue. I'm not like shooting like stars in the thin air, that okay, whatever I'm feeling like, this is the shining point. No, you're proving it. That if I say so, it has been proved, it has been said by XYZ thinker. So you validate your point. That's how the information becomes scientific. It becomes sociological. If you don't know a thinker, no problem. You know some research body, you know that this information was published in a journal, you can quote that, and the answer becomes sociological. Basic fact is, validate yourself. When you validate, the information becomes scientific. Alright? So Neha, you're asking, ma'am, I just want to ask if we have to write the question of emergence of sociology, not emergency, emergence. Just one Y and the meaning can alter. Okay, so emergence of sociology, there are 3 revolutions would be required. Yes, the 3 revolutions and its aftermath, how it impacted, how it necessitated a systematic study of society to find solutions for it, to find answers to it. Okay, then other than that, Harshit, you are asking only 3 classes this week, next class? Yes, because tomorrow you will be getting like a tentative question in the group. Everyone will try to attempt an answer. Then I'll be giving the key points, what should have been incorporated. You all will tally and you'll see whether you could write the same information or not. So in the next 2 days, you will be basically trying with this answer writing practice, which will be done in the group. Because if I take 5 lectures right now towards the beginning, I'll be finishing quite quickly. Truth is this, that I'll be finishing quite quickly. But after like, let's say a month, you'll be like, the syllabus, I've completed 3 chapters or 4 chapters. But how much I remember, I don't know. So I'm just focusing that in the initial 4 weeks, taking 3 lectures and 2 days focusing on helping you in notes making, how to prepare notes, and second, how to learn in with respect to answer writing. Okay, so that everything is consolidated properly. Once you are warm enough, then after that, we will like speed up the process by having 5 lectures, that is 16th onwards. All right. So, okay, Satish, you are saying yesterday I said working class of 19th century were subject to moral and analytical concern. Yes, they were subjected to moral and analytical concern because if a fellow citizen in your society is exploited for 15 to 16 hours and you are educated enough, you are like, let's say you are exposed to human philosophy and you are getting exposed to different types of ideologies which are preached or which are discussed continuously in the period of Renaissance or after Renaissance also in the period of Enlightenment, should it not raise a moral concern in your heart that how come another fellow citizen is relegated to a position which is equivalent to that of an animal, working for 15 to 16 hours. So should it not be a moral concern for the society to look into the concerns of the working class, that why it is living like that, how it is living like that, how the society is responsible for it, and how to alter the situation, how to transform the situation. So that's a moral concern. Second part is analytical concern. Analytical concern is when you find the cause-effect relationship. What is happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, and how to alter it. Okay, so that's how you can think. Yes, what is the difference between middle class and bourgeois? Okay, so generally the term bourgeois is referred to as the elite or the upper class. Okay, but when we refer to, like, let's say Ritzer, you will be finding that the term that was used with respect to we can say the third estate, it was written that the middle class and the bourgeois were also a part of the third estate. This referred to all those people who were a part of the managerial component and those who were facilitating in the managing the administration, but because of the fact that they were a part of the third estate, they were powerless. They were not enjoying any kind of power and they did not govern or they did not control the very process of, like, let's say, choosing the representative. And because they were sidelined or looked down upon by the first and second estate, they were not interested enough to continue with the process. They protested. They first tried to propose this, when you see that oath of tennis court. Prior to that, they reached out to the directorate. Prior to that, they are reaching out to the other seniors and officials, but no one is paying a heed to them. And then finally, you see that they are proposing a new constitution and they are going for a revolt. So that's how you can connect with it. Education should be free from religion. What do I mean by this line? Well, education should be free from religion means religious ideologies and perspectives should not influence the teaching of the day. It should be based on rational scientific temperament. If religion says the earth is in the center and the sun is taking rounds, okay, or it is revolving around the earth, so this is a religious perspective, but this should not pave its way or make its way to education. So you are freeing the topics or concerns of education. If they are somewhere close or if they are similar to those topics which are also a concern of religion, you should not borrow the insights and information from religion, and that is how you free education from religion. Alright, so anyone who is not added to the WhatsApp group yet, if 2 or 3 students are as such, then you have to just reach out to Maram sir. You can call him up, you can share your concern, he'll ask for your details and he'll just add you. I think majority of you have been added. Still, if someone is left, then I'll just share his number once again. And poor guy is getting so many calls, but it's okay. I think this is just the initial phase and we have to be open to that. So when we are discussing about Maram's number, 83739823 and then 03. This is his number. So you can just reach out to him, raise your concern. There is only Telegram group. Yes, there is only Telegram group. There is no WhatsApp group. If someone feels that there is a WhatsApp group, there is no WhatsApp group. There are 2 Telegram groups. One is for the administrative purpose. Second is the in general group. In administrative purpose, I discuss about other details like, for example, posting the link of the lecture, or in future if you have to talk about when the lecture would be conducted, or some other details maybe associated with some technical dimension like login, password, etc. So I'll be sharing it there. But the sociological group will be more active because we'll be posting more analytical information over there. All right. So this is what. Okay. Now, so let us start with the new topic, scope of sociology. I hope all the queries are fine, like everything has been resolved. No problems till now? All good? Okay. Now, so as we are going to start with scope of sociology, did you read it? I asked you to read this and Sociology and Common Sense. Half of the information would be like let's say easy, and the rest half would be getting too technical, right? So the first few sentences would have been easy. Sociology, the term was coined by Auguste Comte, French philosopher, 1839. It is youngest of all social sciences or disciplines. I explained this to you that that's the reason why it is the most scientific amongst all social sciences, because it can incorporate a lot of research methods and techniques which is missing in political science or history or other disciplines per se. And that's why it is considered most scientific amongst all social sciences as well. So when we are speaking of the word sociology, it is derived from the Latin word societas, which means society, and the Greek word logos, that means science or study. When I say study, it means systematic study. And if we go by, so the etymological meaning of sociology is science of society. Further, we can see when we are discussing about it, that when we are discussing about the scope, what does the word scope imply? So it is related to subject matter or the areas of study. So subject matter, point 1, areas of study, point 2. Now, if you have a printout, what difference is created? In the printout, when I keep underlining the key words, it will be easier for you to highlight and create a flow chart. Like remember, yesterday we drew a lot of flow charts related to key information. The flow chart was created from the information which any of you would have read from Ritzer. In Ritzer, it's too expanded, just preparing a gist out of it and then sharing it with all of you. Okay, so we all can like reflect upon this component in the future in the similar manner that you will be converting it into a flow chart. So suppose if you are writing now scope of sociology, so you won't be writing this is a basic introduction. You'll be writing scope equals to subject matter comma area. Okay, the field, the domain, the boundary, these are keywords, remembering 4 or 5 words associated with it. So you can just see this field of inquiry. Okay, it is, so it's saying that it becomes difficult to study a science systematically unless it has a boundary. Okay, so what are synonymous words related to scope? What does the word scope imply? So scope means boundary, the area, all the types of subject matter that should be studied within it, right? So we can connect it with all the topics which are incorporated within it. So subject matter, area, field of inquiry, boundary, all these words are synonymous to the word scope when we speak of it. Okay. So when we are talking about the like dimension of the scope of sociology, we all shall come across the insights that when we are discussing about it, we all can, the soft copy has been provided Sushri for the same reason. So you are supposed to take the printout. Okay. If you depend on the screen, I'll be just underlining the keywords on the screen. You're not supposed to study from the screen. Okay. So don't try to study from the screen. Maybe I can increase the size. That will ease the work for all of you. Okay. If you want it even more, I'll do that. No, a size smaller. Okay. So I can just increase the size, but please take a printout, and abhi to kam hai printout. You'll realize that when it's family, marriage, kinship, or even more politics and society, you'll get 70 pages soft copy because I cannot dictate so much. So you'll realize anything and everything which is crucial and basic to the topic, it is there. Okay, I've kept a bigger font. I have not squeezed down the font. That okay, fine, 10 pages extra, chalega. Rather than giving dense content, because I personally feel from the student's point of view, if the content is too dense and teeny tiny, crawly, it becomes very tiresome to read. After reading 2 pages, a person feels like fainting. Oh my God, I've studied so much. Oh, only 2 pages? I've not studied enough. So there's a sense of disappointment. When you read something which is in 10 pages, which actually can be fitted in 7 pages, but the moment a child finishes 10 pages, like, okay, I finished 10 pages. Again, there is ease of reading also, so you'll realize that the soft copy generally has a bigger font. Whenever I'll be posting that. So just take a printout, keep underlining that, okay, and the keywords which are being highlighted, and that will ease the process. This applies to all topics. Because imagine in paper 1, if we have 10 topics, and in those 10 topics, there are topics which are in combination, like family, marriage, kinship. Why I said it will be fat? Because there will be content not only of paper 1, also of paper 2. I'll be discussing it simultaneously. Similarly, social stratification. So social stratification, the moment I finish it, I'll take up caste. Okay. So caste system, social classes, that will be taken up simultaneously. Suppose I'm talking about politics and society in paper 1. So political system of paper 2 and social movements will be taken up simultaneously. So but obvious, the content will become bulky because paper 1, 2 both are involved. 30 pages of this one, 35 pages of that one, clubbed together, 65, 70 pages. That's how it becomes. Okay. So get habituated to reading volume and highlighting it, making key notes out of it. Don't go lazy. Let me tell this to you. In the past, there have been students who can vouch for it, those who are selected, those who also could not get selected. I incorporate both of them, who have vouched for this specific dimension, that whenever I request, please make notes. So initially, out of that jest and out of that energy that, oh, it's a fresh session, so students go for making notes, students go for practicing PYQ. But bit by bit, as preparations start plateauing, students tend to feel a little lazy. So one chapter they are making some notes, then they are leaving it. Or practicing PYQ and once in a while leaving it. Don't be that student. You know what happens? The preparation stretches by 1 year. Just because of 5 months of laziness, 1 year gets added to your preparation. And it's not easy to survive year after year the process of preparation because it breaks your courage. It sometimes is very challenging with respect to your mental tenacity. in terms of surviving this game. I mean, you can see students getting selected after 5 years also, 10 years also, becoming all India toppers, right? 8 years, 7 years of preparation. You must be hearing that, right? Or students after 3 years getting into revenue services, preparing for 2-3 more years and then becoming IAS, right? So 6 years of preparation, 5 years of preparation involved. So that's a very, I would say, tedious process. To escape it, don't learn by creating mistakes. Learn by the mistakes of others. That's smart preparation. It's not necessary to learn by your own mistakes. So one of the core mistakes which students do is they go lazy in making notes or practicing PYQs. So please continue with this. Do not depend on, I would say, like other times that, okay, I'll finish the syllabus by, like, let's say December, and after that January, February, I'll only make notes. Some students think like that, operate like that. Is bahane revision bhi ho jayega. Nahi hota hai. You feel lazy and then you leave the chapters in between. So it's better, even if the notes is substandard, even if it is too detailed or it is too shortcut, you are missing on some key points, no problem. Keep making notes. Get into the habit of writing. Also, majority of the students, they are into the habit of listening and reading. Listening and reading. They do not write even for 1 hour at home. If you are not writing 1 to 2 hours at home, how will you develop your writing speed which is needed for the exam? When you know some information, your writing speed can be 28 to 30 words per minute. But when you don't know some information and you are fumbling and you are constantly getting strained to recall, it can be 15 to 16 words per minute. UPSC needs 22 to 25 words per minute speed. In the absence of that speed, you won't be able to complete the paper. So it's essential that get into the habit of framing the answer, framing the keywords. Okay, keep doing that, because there are students who, when they go for writing mains, half the chapter's notes are prepared, half are not. Prelims result have come and they are like, ma'am, now when I'm turning the material, I'm seeing that everything is there. But if notes was prepared, it would have been easier. A bunch of notes and it becomes so easy to revise. So, ma'am, like that laziness, it seems we are paying a price for it. Because half the time when it should have been invested in writing test series and revising, we are investing it in making notes. It's like, this is not the time to make notes, but be super speedy. Pour in all your life, your heart to at least make notes for 2 to 2.5 hours per day. Then only you can complete it. Now, people who are writing the mains after cracking the prelims. So, like writing the mains for the first time, but they have not prepared the notes. Don't be that student, because then your condition becomes, I would say, kind of 50-50. You may clear, you may not clear. For the simple reason, after making the notes, you also need multiple revisions. Okay. So do the homework now. Indulge in the revision after the course gets over in like let's say by December, first week of December or so I'm targeting. Let's see, it depends on your pace and also the number of holidays. Though we are not having enough holidays, we are having just Diwali break. Okay, this is what I have thought. And yes, maybe one day the Shera, if that is, there is a pressing need. I'm very a bit strict about not giving breaks. Yeah, 15th August we'll have to take a break. Okay. So, but when I take a break, I take a 7-8 days stretch break. That is during the Christmas break, because I prefer to travel. Okay. So, there will be certain things which you'll get to know, learn, but the syllabus will be completed diligently. Once the syllabus is completed, indulge in revising the material at least thrice before starting your prelims preparation. Okay. Do at least that bit. You'll be very, very confident later. All right. So let's go ahead with respect to this dimension when we are discussing about it. So when we are talking about the scope of sociology or the boundary of sociology or what sociology incorporates, we can understand it like this formalistic, specialist and synthetic. Prior to that, let me give you a flowchart like structure. Okay. So when we are talking about the scope of sociology, with respect to it, when you are preparing notes, first and foremost, you should understand what do we imply by the scope. What does it mean? Okay. Then after this, you should be understanding the phases of sociology. When we speak of phases of sociology, you should think of sociology in the initial phase, that is 1838 to like 1880. This is the initial phase. Then after that, you should refer to the second phase, that is 1880s to like 1940s. Okay. So this is the second phase. And then after that, in this second phase also, here comes the component of formal school. Okay. And after formal school, you will be like reflecting upon the synthetic school. And then you need to understand the third phase, that is from 1940s to 1990s. That is the third phase. And then comes the current phase. That is, you can talk about like 1990s to present. Okay. So this is the present phase. Alright. So this is how you need to understand the phases of it. And then accordingly you need to remember the thinkers. Okay. So scope, with respect to it, what do we imply by the scope of sociology, and then the phases of sociology. In terms of this, when we are discussing about it, first and foremost you need to understand that the phase of sociology, because it is varying and changing. Okay. So varies and changes with time. Varies and changes with time. So because it varies and changes with time, because the social concerns are changing, social problems are changing, social issues are changing. And cryptocurrency, did it even exist 200 years back, 150 years back? No, not really. If we are talking about modern banking, was this version of banking which we are indulging with, electronic money or plastic money, was this existing 100 years back? No. So because the concerns of the society is changing, hence the scope keeps changing. That's the logic why we are studying it in different phases. When you are understanding this, then you will realize that sociology will make you very cynical in nature. Cynical means you start questioning everything, understanding the logic of everything. If anything lacks logic, people or those situations won't be able to appease you, because you'll be like, what's the logic? Why should I believe this? How is this happening? Okay. So you will constantly try to look for it, and that will be the amazing thing. So first phase, if we speak of this initial phase, we can understand this. Okay. So we can understand this initial phase first and foremost with respect to whom? So who started sociology as a discipline? Yesterday we were discussing the names. Auguste Comte, okay. So Saint Simon, social physics, and then Auguste Comte. You also remember Herbert Spencer, right? So when we remember the initial days sociologists, we can just connect them with this initial phase and how they are developing sociology as a discipline. So in the initial phase, they started debating that what should be studied by sociology, what should be analyzed by sociology. So in this, all of you can find out that in the initial phase, sociology will be studying whether it should study macro units. Macro means wholesome units, larger units. Macro, micro, all of you understand the dimension. So whether it should study macro units, okay, that means understanding the society in larger units through larger organizations, study of institutions, okay, analyzing the wholesome phenomena. So here we can see first and foremost Auguste Comte. And what will Comte say? So Auguste Comte will be talking about the concept of social statics, okay, social statics, and he'll be talking about social dynamics. Means there are certain things which are constantly changing, and there are certain things which maintain harmony and equilibrium. Okay, so social statics, social dynamics. He'll be talking it in terms of that. And he was inspired, sorry, I should have written Saint Simon first. So he was inspired by Saint Simon. I should make the arrow like this. So Saint Simon. So he is giving the term social physics, means studying the society scientifically with some objective methodologies. And from social physics, we move to the next approach, that was social statics and social dynamics. By this we see that they come up with a scientific approach. They say that we should apply scientific approach, which one of your friends was talking about positivism. Remember? One of your friend was asking that positivism towards the initial discussions, that ma'am, what is positivism? So through scientific approach or through positivist approach, this approach is also called inductive approach. You remember inductive, deductive methods which are there in science, okay? So inductive approach. When we speak of inductive approach, it implies that you are trying to study reality through empiricism. Study reality through empiricism. Through empiricism. Okay. So you are trying to study the reality through empiricism. When we are trying to study the reality through empiricism, what are we doing? What are we indulging in? We are trying to study the reality with objective facts. That is empiricism. Objective facts, observable facts. We are analyzing the facts. For example, like let's say, if there is a religious cult, so when did it start? How did it start? Who is the leader? How many followers are there? They are empirical facts. When do we consider a religious, like let's say a cult to become, to get established as a religious organization? So it's new, it is fresh, lesser number of followers, it's just a cult. It may die once the follower or once the, leader dies. So there is a possibility that the leader dies and the followers, they get scattered and then they just discontinue with the practices. But if if some sociologist observes that no, the number is increasing decade after decade, century after century, even after the death of the leader, or the leader has died 200 years back, but after every passage of decade, new followers have got added. Now slowly and steadily it is establishing itself as a religion, demanding and contesting in different countries that along with the space for other religious personal laws, our identity should also be recognized as a distinct religion. Certain countries have started recognizing it as a religion, like mandating its provisions under the personal law. Then what happens? The sociologist will be like, these are the empirical facts, this is the progression with time, these are the numbers which is validating, and hence from a cult it has established into a religion. Getting it? This is empiricism, studying with empiricism. It's not talking about what ideology, whether the ideology is valid or not, how people are following it, why people are following it, what is the logic behind following it. Okay, no one is trying to contest, no one is trying to, in this method of empiricism, trying to understand, is there a change in the ideology, modification in the ideology with changing times, changing pressures, changing problems, is the ideology like changing itself? That is something which is not in, that is something in which thinkers do not indulge in when they are talking about methods of empiricism. That is something which who will indulge in trying to interpret and understand? Non-positivists. Okay, interpretative sociologists. Non-positivists are also called, another word for non-positivists is interpretative sociologists. And who is the father of it? Weber. Weber is a thinker in your syllabus. Max Weber, a German sociologist. So he is considered the father of interpretative sociology or the non-positivist methodology. Anyway, we'll discuss about him little later. He's coming. He's definitely coming. So here in the scope of sociology, the scope, first and foremost, what did we study? Emergence. How sociology came into existence. After it came into existence, then another discussion is what should be studied in sociology. What topics, what chapters, what area of concern should be studied in sociology. What is the domain of analysis in the sociology, in the discipline of sociology? Okay, so this is the second part that we are dealing with, content of sociology. How content is evolving, how thinker after thinker, phase after phase, era after era, the content is evolving. Okay, so first phase is when they are trying to analyze society scientifically. Okay, so here you can just talk about study of reality through empiricism. So Auguste Comte, you already know, social statics, social dynamics. So Auguste Comte's method is referred to as social positivism. Social positivism. So positivism, now you are getting habituated to the term. Social positivism. Herbert Spencer, yesterday only I gave his concept, day before yesterday also. What was the concept? Now without me mentioning it, you tell me. Okay, organ, and after organ, should I add something to it? Okay, organism. Further, something else to be added? I see. Okay, so organismic, and then another word. Okay, yes, analogy. So you have to remember that. Analogy means comparison. This is such a nice word, man. You can just memorize it and you can throw it before your friends. Right? I mean, that's how you improve your vocabulary. When you throw words before them and they're like, oh my God, like his or her vocabulary is becoming too strong, or this person, I mean, like has become smarter. They don't actually think vocabulary has become better. They feel this person has become smarter after starting this preparation. But the truth is, smartness is when you use the precise language. Okay? So just develop that. So like as per the analogical understanding of the given situation, and then the person like, oh my God, breathless. Create all this, like, create sensation when you are preparing. You'll enjoy it. Love the process, because learning becomes fun when you get into that. Okay, another segment is, you can see, is the humanistic perspective that develops, whereby, why humanistic perspective? Because whether it is Auguste Comte, whether it is Herbert Spencer, or whether we are talking about Saint Simon, all of them, what are they trying to deal with? They are trying to find solutions to social problems, right? That's why it is humanistic perspective. That's why the subject matter, the scope, the content incorporates. What does it incorporate? It incorporates the human concerns, the social problems that people are suffering from. So you will be just writing down that the social problems, okay, the social problems that are existing, and what are the solutions to it. So social problems that are existing, I'm just writing keyword existing, okay. So reasons, what are the reasons, or rather the causes responsible for it, and what are the solutions, how to find out the solutions to those problems, okay, how to solve those problems. That is the initial concern of sociologists who develop sociology as a discipline, who create sociology as a distinct discipline. They are trying to create a subject matter, they are trying to create a, we can say, a discipline which can study society independently, not the way economics is studying, or psychology is studying, or political science is studying, not from one dimensional perspective, but multi-dimensional possibilities, and then trying to find the best solution possible. Okay, so this is the first phase, which we all can see. The first phase, initial phase, 1838 to 1880. Then we indulge into the second phase. The second phase, that is 1880 to 1940. So as we move to the second phase, 1880s to 1940s. Okay. So here we'll see that the scope of sociology will start broadening itself. So here we will see that broadening of the scope. Broadening of the scope of sociology means people want to study more things related to the society. So here definitely Max Weber comes into existence, Emil Durkheim comes into existence. So we'll first talk about Weber. Okay, when Weber comes into existence, he starts talking about, I have told you, the father of interpretative sociology. So first I should write this, interpretative sociology. He introduces interpretative sociology. What is interpretative sociology? So he gave the Verstehen approach. This is a new term for all of you. This is the term which all of you need to memorize. Verstehen. So what is Verstehen? In simple language, this is a German word. Okay, so it means putting oneself in other person's shoes, or compassionately connecting to the concern by putting yourself in the other person's situation. So when you put yourself in the other person's situation and try to analyze the situation from that person's perspective, that how this person is feeling, why the person is feeling, how this person might be undergoing a challenge. Okay, so like let's say there is a leper, okay, and the person is asking for alms, and you are saying that one method is apathy, when you do not pay attention to the person, like you're just dismissing the person and you're being cruel, you're being insensitive. So apathy is like you're like being abusive. Kahan se chale aate, bhag yahan se. Like that's the way, like sometimes you can listen to people speaking like that, right? Then comes the component of pity. That okay, let me give him just 10 rupees and get rid of him. You don't even bother. You just get 10 and you're just walking off. Then comes the component of sympathy. So in sympathy, what are you doing? You're giving 100 rupees. That okay, fine, this fellow at least he should get 2 square meals today with this money. And then you're walking off. You do not even think about it later. A month later, 2 months later, you don't even remember the incident. So sympathy is when that situation is only impacting you immediately. Okay. Then comes the component of empathy. When you put yourself in that person's shoes because you have undergone the similar experience. That is empathy. So you think, oh, there was a time when even I was ill, and I was ill for 1 year or 2 years, and I could not go to school regularly. I could not sit in the class properly. The teacher felt that I have become a hopeless student. My parents felt that I'll fail that year. And then what happened was that my siblings also started looking down upon me that I'm not a good student, so no point discussing what's going on presently because I won't be able to grab. And everyone was like, you just take rest, you just take rest. So what if something so severe would have happened? Like this person who's a leper. He is saying that he has a family and everyone abandoned. So this is what sympathy. Sorry, this is empathy. When you are putting yourself in that person's shoes and you are thinking that what if I was in this person's situation? Okay. So you're either connecting something with your own past or you're putting yourself completely emotively, remember that, emotively in that person's situation. A stage above that is compassion. Compassion is I would say, the most noble and the best stage a civil servant can be. Because in compassion, you have passion to help the person out. You have the passion to make a breakthrough for that individual. But you do not necessarily get emotional or you don't necessarily become emotionally wobbly. Wobbly means आप emotionally disturbed नहीं होते. You are not disturbed emotionally. You don't start crying or feeling, oh my God, if this would have happened. Means pathos is not hitting your heart. Because in empathy, sympathy, apathy, what is the key word? Pathos. Pathos means pain. Okay. But compassionate. Com means competently. Passionate means competently I can understand what you are undergoing. But without getting emotional about the situation, I'll try to find the best solution possible. Getting it? That way you maintain objective neutrality, yet the human touch of the situation. Yet your decision making is laced with the human concern related to the people who are involved in the situation. Okay, I hope all of you are understanding that. So, here when we are talking about Max Weber's approach, this background which I created for all of you, this background, why did I create? This background is something which is essential for your paper 4. In GS paper 4, you come across these stages of emotions and you study them in civil services values. Why not apathy? Why not like pity, empathy, sympathy? Why we think about compassionate? Okay, so empathy and compassion, either both the words will be written together or compassion. Okay, and you should understand the logic behind it. So the word empathy, if I pick it and use it for Max Weber uses a technical term that is empathetic liaison. And empathetic liaison is the term which is a translation of this German word verstehen. Okay, so verstehen, what does it mean? Putting yourself in the other person's situation or having an empathetic liaison with the person. Understanding this? All of you? This is a new term for all of you, right? Okay, but get habituated to it. So when we are talking about this empathetic liaison, Max Weber is saying that whenever we are analyzing a situation, we should put ourselves in that other person's situation and then think that why this person is responding in this manner. Okay, and then probably our ways to find solution, ways to understand a situation will be far more deeper, more inclusive. Okay, so when we speak of Max Weber, he is talking about interpretative sociology. He is talking about micro realities. So study of micro realities, that study the details, observe the details, and just opposite of him, just completely opposite of him comes who? Durkheim. So he'll be talking about details, Weber is talking about details, and Durkheim, okay, please don't call him Durkheim. A lot of Hindi medium teachers call him Durkheim, because in Hindi medium books it's written Durkheim, I'll be very honest, okay, but pronounce him Durkheim, because that's the pronunciation, okay. So Durkheim, he continued the possibility of, which one? This one, the above, the initial stage which we were discussing about, this one, which is called this macro units. So Durkheim continued with the macro units. He is like, no, we should study the wholesome units, organizations, institutions, the larger society, the body, okay. So he continued with macro units, okay. And the macro units, he referred to it as, so Max Weber is studying like micro realities. He is studying, there is a term which you should remember, again, social action. So Max Weber is talking about social action. So Verstehen, social action, all these will get more clear when you are studying about these thinkers soon enough, okay. Durkheim will be talking about a term called social fact. If you don't remember who gave which term, then also confusion can be created, okay. So Durkheim is talking about social fact. He is talking about macro units. Now, a lot of new terms, right? You're suddenly getting bombarded. Words are looking like, okay, social word is easy, fact is easy, but it looks like a technical term. What does the word imply? What is the meaning? What is the sociological meaning? Simple. See, when I say social fact, what is social fact? Social fact is something, a fact which I cannot influence, I cannot change, but I'm following because the society has said, has informed, has implied, has forced me to behave in a specific manner. So, like, let us say, if there is a social fact that how a person should behave in a temple or in a mosque or in a gurudwara. So if a person is going to a gurudwara or a church, so in a church a person is walking with the shoes, okay, prim and proper, dressed up, going in shoes. But in a gurudwara the person is taking off the shoes, submitting it, washing the feet. There is a space where you can actually dip your feet and wash it. In a mosque, the person is actually going to an area where the person is actually washing the hand and person is washing the feet and the face, everything, okay? And then the person is entering the mosque. And then the person is entering the temple, taking off the footwear, right? Who said that whether footwear should be worn or not? You can see that little kids, suppose a child is living next to a temple, let us consider. And the child is 2.5 years old. And the parents are like, once in a while parents, grandparents are taking him or her to the temple, okay. But one day what happens is that the gate is open and the child is like, oh, I just have to cross this little street and go to the temple because there I get sweets to eat. So the child is like, yay, and the child runs and forgets to take off the footwear, runs inside with the footwear, directly goes to the statue. Near the statue, sweets are lying, people have placed it. The child starts eating it merrily. And someone catches hold, hey, what are you doing? Oh my God, oh my God. So who is imposing the behavior that treat that statue with reverence? Do not enter with the footwear. Who has taught all this? Society. So social facts are external behavior imposed upon you. External ways of living imposed upon you, which you cannot influence or which you cannot change. And all of us are governed, all of us are controlled by social facts. This is what Durkheim is saying. I mean, if boys are wearing shirts in this class or t-shirts in this class, they are not wearing blouses in this class. So there is a social fact associated with it. But if, like, let us say, it was something like 200 years back and like, let's say, long blouses and short blouses were worn by men and women respectively. So there was or like, let's say, ornaments. None of the boys are wearing ornaments in the class, right? But if, like, let's say, it was something like 400 years back and men also were indulging in wearing ornaments. So we could have experienced boys also sitting in this class wearing ornaments, flaunting different types of ornaments, right? Like big, huge earrings or something like that. And they would have also be comparing, like, you know, their fashion statement. Why is this not right now? Why are boys not wearing earrings in the class? Social fact. Boys don't wear earrings. Maybe if someone has got a little piercing and a little, like, let's say, stud, that's still okay. But people notice, oh, stud pehanta hai kaan mein. Oh, are you getting it? Because it's something different. But it's not something which is like a huge dangler. Because it's not a part of the social fact. So, Boys, how many boys have long hair in the class? Hardly anyone, like no one for that matter, right? So, why don't boys have long hair? Social fact. That boys like generally don't have hair which is at the length of like let's say waist. But the moment you want to be a guitarist and you want to follow the, you want to get into a band which is like following Metallica or any such like we can say genre of music, where having long hair, a lot of tattoos, having a lot of beads and having a lot of jewelry is cool, acceptable, and that is the way you should look like. Then again the social fact will be imposed. It cannot be like you're wearing dhoti and kurta and listening to some jazz music or some like, something which is, or following Metallica or something like that. So it will be like, what is this if someone listens to the music? Why? Because there's a social fact. Someone who's following a specific brand of music or a style of music, the person will be dressing up or getting influenced by that social fact. Are you understanding that? I hope the technical word is easy. The definition of the technical word will come later. So don't be under the pressure of memorizing the word. It will come later. When we'll study Durkheim, memorize it, then first become easy with the terms. Okay? Now, so you said rationalist and empiricist are the same. I mean, not the same, but they will be going ahead with the similar scientific methods to study. What if rationalists are just based on solipsism and empiricists just based on skepticism? Well, that is something, I think that is something which you should be studying in philosophy. In sociology, when we use the term that someone is rational, someone is associated with empirical methods, वो जैसे था वैसे ही छोड़ दीजिए. So when someone is like, let's say, following the empirical method, when someone is following the rational method, then in that situation, we imply to say that, take it up, वो hide chat आ रहा है, just take it up. No, not down, take it up, you'll find it, yes, that's it. Okay. Then in that sense, we all can connect with this specific dimension that in the world of sociology, when we are talking about someone is following rationalism or someone is following skepticism, the person is laying the foundations of scientific methods. Because skepticism means you are going for debunking theory. You are doubting something. When you doubt something or you debunk a reality, what do you get into the possibility? You don't believe things on face value. You go and you test. Okay, so that's what we mean to say, Glovin. Okay, then, ma'am, it is a social fact that boys don't cry, they don't play with dolls. Yeah, it is an imposed fact. That's why when a guy starts howling, hey, and then in a boys' hostel, boys will be like kicking him rather than saying, oh my God, dear friend, what happened? No, boys will slap him. Take one more, cry harder. Let us see how hard you can cry. And or boys can probably start mocking, hey, ladki ban gaya hai. Okay, so this is because it's a social fact that men cannot be vulnerable, but they have tear glands. There's a biological necessity to cry. Okay, so that's there which you can understand. Menstruating women or girls are not allowed to enter religious places is also a social fact. Yeah, to a certain extent, because religion itself is a social fact. Religious institutions and practices are a social fact. You're not born with religion. The moment you are born, you're like, a cross is emerging on my forehead, or an Om is emerging on my forehead, and hence I'm belonging to this religion. That doesn't happen. People train you, your parents train you, your society, your neighborhood, it trains you into that religion. Okay, so religion itself is a social fact. So when you say that I'm following a specific religion, you start listening to its philosophy, its concepts, its ideologies, and with the understanding of the philosophy and the concepts of that religion, which is, if I say the Indic religions or religions of Indian origin, which are based on Tantra, Mantra and Yantra, whether it is Buddhism with its impact of Vajrayana, or whether we talk about Hinduism, okay, you will find that they will be talking about the idea of purity and pollution of religion, and in that they will be giving this idea that how a woman's body can be pure or impure and thus susceptible to energies, the different types of energies which can influence us even if they are not visible. So when we speak of that very possibility, you will see that these religions, they will be talking about some parallel realities. So in that they will be talking about the reality that a pregnant woman, or a woman who has just delivered a baby, a woman who has just become a widow, or a woman who is menstruating. In these four conditions, a woman's body is vulnerable or susceptible. if you go by empirical or scientific approach, it will be like, oh, a woman is susceptible to like fall ill or to be diseased because emotionally she is like vulnerable. And a person whose mind is emotionally vulnerable, the body is susceptible to different types of diseases or infections. But if you go by the world of religion and it as a social fact, then religion will say that, oh, the body is susceptible also not only to the diseases and these patterns, but also to higher energies, energies which are not visible by our naked eye, but which can influence us. So the way God is the supreme energy, there are some energies which are floating in between also. And a menstruating woman is susceptible to that energy. So if she goes to a temple and there are some other types of positive energies also, they may influence her well-being. Okay, so that's why she was discouraged from entering the temple. Many people don't know the logic, and as they grow up and they ask their mothers, why can't I go to the temple or why can't I go to the Gurudwara if I am menstruating, then mothers don't have a logic. They'll be like, because that's how it is followed. She's like, I do away with this following. I mean, that's how you break social facts, and that's how you contest social facts and you pave your own way. That's why. Sociology in its scope. On one hand, thinkers like Durkheim will be saying that society is influencing man. Society is creating processes and phenomena which man has to follow. Whereas thinkers like Max Weber will be saying it is individual who's influencing society. Everything that the individual says, does, thinks should be studied systematically because he is influencing the society. Truth is lying in between. Sometimes man influences the society, sometimes society influences the man. Both the phenomena happen simultaneously, like Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King. These are the people who have shaped the human civilization, shaped the patterns of society, shaped the way people should interact, behave, live, operate, isn't it? Right? So they have introduced new ideologies, new perspectives, new ways of thinking, living, behaving. So individual shaping the society, that also happens. Society influencing the individual, that does happen, social fact. Okay? So what is right, what is wrong, we are not indulging in that because that's not the concern of sociology. Sociology does not try to give pass judgments. In sociology, you will not find like someone passing judgment. This is right, this is wrong. Whether protesting women are right or wrong, you're not passing a judgment. You'll just study why they are protesting, how they are protesting, what that their protests will lead to. That's it. Whether the protest is right or wrong, that falls in the area of judgment. You are judgment free. You are bias free. You are neutral. You talk about facts, how they are happening, why they are happening, what that can lead to. Okay, understanding that? Scope of sociology. Then, as you are understanding about this specific phenomena, so why are the traditions of society based on one's own convenience which changes periodically? Because as people change, okay, and if the people, let's say those who are undergoing the change, they are in an influential position, they will influence the scheme of existence, they will influence the customs and traditions, they will modify that what ought to be followed. So they will be saying, oh, not like this also things can happen. Like for example, there was this group of travelers who were constantly traveling all the way to eastern parts of Europe. Okay, so there is this river Volga which flows over there. So they were constantly moving, and they were the Sanatanis who were belonging to this North Indian region. And in North India, people give a lot of importance to Ganga. Okay, the Ganges water, it is considered holy, it is considered to be used for different types of religious purposes. So, when we are talking about this specific dimension, these merchants and traders, when they went via Silk Route, like from crossing China, via Mongolia, then further moving to eastern part of Europe, so when they reached that specific region, then they realized that the holy Ganges water is over. They need that water for purification purpose, for the purpose of conduction of certain customs and traditions. They're like, now what to do? So they asked another trader that if you are going to India, please get a huge pot of water and see to it it's in a metal pot, preferably like, brass or something, so that the quality, so that the pot does not break. So that continued again for some time, but then that was something which was like I would say later not carried forward because of, like, let's say irregular travels. That's very distractive, bacha. After class do that, okay? Because मैं बहुत ignore करने की कोशिश कर रहा, I'm talking to you, okay? I'm ignoring, लेकिन हो नहीं पा रहा है और मैं कोई जजमेंट नहीं पास करूंगी, उम्र ऐसी है कि ये सब चलता है, ठीक है? लेकिन क्लास के बाद करना, ठीक है? चलो, now getting back to this. So when we are talking about this, so these traders, what they tried to find a solution is they spoke to the Pandit, and the Pandit, he came up with a solution. He said, yeah, there is a solution. So get a pot of like Ganga, the Ganga water, and when the Ganges water was taken there, he poured that in the Volga river, because you must be seeing that a lot of Hindus who perform religious rituals, they will keep a huge bucket of water, a pail of water, and then they'll mix little bit of Ganges water in it, a spoonful of it, mix it, they're like, this is Ganga. And then they will, like, start using that water as Ganges water, okay? So he used the same formula. He mixed a pot of water of Ganga in Volga, and he said, from today onwards, Volga is Ganga. Okay, so that's how social facts change. People change the social facts as per their convenience, periodically, as per their movement, as per their existence, and as per the availability of different types of resources. People doing live darshan. You must be seeing all that, those so-called religious channels, yeah. So, like some live aarti is going on, 4 o'clock, someone is getting up, okay, and just brushing and taking a bath and doing the live darshan. What is that? Technology is aiding and assisting to continue the cultural or traditional practice that the person was living. So, like, let's say the person's Guruji is like, till if you are unable to attend the session which we are conducting in that area, a live telecast will be also made. So you can have an access to the live telecast. And you're seeing that the Bhakt is taking a bath and sitting in front of the TV with all the, like, maybe vermilion and incense sticks and everything. So that's how you're seeing that tradition is also modifying itself as per the convenience. So social facts, though they are rigid, they don't change easily, but they can change with the change of the society. So neither Durkheim is too perfect nor Weber. They have an alter reality existing with what they are talking about. And that is how the scope broadens itself. I hope you all are understanding that. And the topic is interesting, right? While reading it in the notes, it would have been too dry. So a lot of students who said, ma'am, agar notes mil jata to, I बोलती हूँ notes मिलेगा तब भी तबाही मची रहेगी. Because even if you have the notes, you don't know the explanation, it will be boring. Anyway, so you understand that what Durkheim did. After that, what do we see? That we can further substantiate with respect to this. So sociology, when we are talking about its development, we see that sociology, it started established itself as a discipline, because we are talking about Weber and Durkheim, they are professors, okay? So establish itself as a discipline in various universities, okay? And then we see there are two schools of thought that emerge. Two schools of thought emerge in this process. What are the two schools of thought? So first we can think of the formal school, and second is the synthetic school. Synthetic word, as you can see, it's coming from the word synthesize. Synthetic, there are clothes also, no, which are called synthetic. So they are a mixture of two fabrics. In the similar manner, synthetic school will be borrowing information from different disciplines. It will be open to the idea of borrowing and not going exclusive about the subject matter of sociology. They're like anything and everything which is related to society can be studied in sociology. Whereas formal school will be very rigid. So what is it talking? So first and foremost, let us talk about the formal school. With respect to formal school, they are focus is on microphenomena. When we speak of the microphenomena is studied in what? Social action. Weber, you can remember that. Social action. Microphenomena can be associated with the details of social process. Details of a social process. Now, I'll be explaining this to all of you. There is an impact of Kant, Immanuel Kant. He is there in your GS paper 4. Immanuel Kant, okay. He is the first person to speak, before sociologists, he is the first person to speak that society can be studied in microscopic details, okay. So he, like, society should be observed with microscopic details, studied with microscopic details, alright. So he is also talking about abstract generalizations which can be made from those microscopic details. So microscopic details will lead to abstract generalizations about the existing realities, okay. And abstract generalizations, how are we arriving at it? So abstract generalizations, we are arriving at it by subjective understanding of objective reality, subjective understanding of objective reality. It is then that you arrive at abstract generalizations, okay. So the subject, when we are, like, you know, trying to study, or when we are trying to understand that what is the subjective interpretation of a situation. So subjective understanding means subjective interpretation, subjective interpretation of objective reality, okay. What does this imply? So for this, again, I'll give you an example and you'll understand that with respect to it. Subjective interpretation of an objective reality is like, let's say, there can be different situations. First and foremost, let me explain you what is social action. When you understand what is social action, then you will be able to understand the details of it, okay. So social action is when I am performing an act, the other person is observing and understanding and interpreting the act and then responding accordingly. There are three aspects. One is I am performing an act. Second is the other person is receiving, understanding, interpreting that action. And third is the other person is responding to that action. Okay. Then it is considered as what? As social action. Simple example, like, let us see. This is an example which I always quote with respect to, what is it? Ma'am, social fact can be changed or not means like entry of women to Sabrimala. Prabhu, we'll take social fact later. Okay, let us keep it for Weber. Sorry, for Durkheim. When we'll discussing that, I'll get into the detailed explanation of social fact. Right now, just know that social fact was external to human beings. It was impacting the way of thinking, behaving, okay, and responding in any given situation. That was social fact. Okay. So let us just understand the definition and meaning of social fact. What are the details of it? I'll indulge in it because then otherwise we'll get engrossed only in these two terms, no? And we have to deal with them later. You get 10 marker question on social action, 10 marker question on social fact. So I won't be leaving just by giving a example itself. But here today, for the first time, you're getting exposed to this term. So my focus is to explain just the term, just the insight. So I'll give you an example from my hostel days. So in our hostel times, I mean, I'm talking about early 2000, means 2000, 2001. I mean, yes, I'm that ancient, okay. So at that time period, what was happening was we didn't have mobile phones. I mean, even though mobile phones were existing in the society, but we were not supposed to own mobile phones, and they were huge. They were this big mobile phones. You had to pull out like a cord out of it and then, like, you know, listen to it. So it was more like a I would say flip flop, chappal jaisa hota tha, इतना बड़ा सा. चप्पल जैसा फोन ऐसे चिपका लिया ऐसे करके कॉर्ड खींच, like that. So you're not supposed to keep it. It was a luxury item. Like outgoing call 32 rupees, 36 rupees, incoming call was 14 rupees. So it was a very expensive affair. So students were not allowed to keep it. Even if you're a minister's child, don't keep a mobile phone. If you're caught hold of it, the mobile will be confiscated, parents will be called. It was that strict. Fine. Though, like, you know, we had a lot of students from well-off backgrounds, but not allowed means not allowed. Fine, that's there. So what is the method of calling your friend who is in the, like living in the next room and is a friend, suppose. So if you have to call that female who is living in the other room, so what is the method? You kick on the wall. So while we are lying down on the bed and suppose I have to drink water, so I'll be kicking on the wall constantly or I'll be banging on the wall. So other friend will understand that chalo bulawa aaya hai. So they're like, the friend just walks out, comes and is like, yes, what? So suppose there is urgent, I'm like, what happened today in the class, come sit, I'll just tell you something. And suppose I engage her in a conversation, one method. Another thing is, suppose I'm thirsty, I'll be like, yaar, please pass the bottle of water, I'm feeling very thirsty. So why don't you get up and take it? Like, that's the reason why you're here, just pass the bottle. She's like, huh, and stomps the feet and leaves the room. Okay, but still social action is performed. Whether I got the water or not, but she responded to it. I performed an action, it was received and the person responded. Social action performed. Now let me alter the situation, okay. Suppose my friend's mother has come and she has gone to take a bath and both the women are planning to go for shopping, okay. So in that situation, what happens is that I'm kicking on the wall. Her mother listens to the blub, blub, blub kind of sound, some like vibration in the wall. She's like, huh, what was that? And then she ignores it. And then what happens is like she forgets about it after 5 minutes when her daughter comes after taking a bath. And then after that, like, both the mother and daughter duo, they leave for shopping. Okay. So even though I hit the wall, the other person listened to it, but there was no response to it. So social action did not take place. Are you understanding that? So for social action, only the performance of action is not necessary. After the performance of action, understanding and interpreting the action. So auntie could not interpret the action that this is bulawa and I have to go and just say hello, what's the problem? So she just thought that there's some random vibration going on. And then later while shopping, she's informing her daughter that I think your next door neighbor is quite active and jumpy because there was a lot of sound that was coming from the wall. And she said, oh, mama, that's our method of calling each other. And then the woman is like, oh, okay, she was calling. Yeah, I should have paid a visit to her. And just in case she was free, she could have also come along for shopping with us. So what is this? This is not a social action that got performed because the response did not articulate. Understanding this? So suppose two people are riding on a cycle and they collide, their cycles fell off, they fall off, they mechanically pick the cycle and they go into opposite directions. That's not social action. Okay? But two people, they are cycling, they collide and they say sorry to each other and they walk off. Social action is there. Two people collide, they start using cuss words for each other. Social action has taken place. Okay? Two people collide, they just bow, they don't speak a single word, but they make a gesture. Okay? And then they walk off. That is a social action. Because in social action, only the action part is not necessary. After action, some response is also necessary. That's the detail of social action. Understanding the word social action? Easy? Okay. Now getting back to that. So Weber is saying that we need to focus on micro phenomena. Okay, the micro phenomena of everything that's happening around us, that is happening to an individual, in and around an individual. Okay. How can Weber's idea be micro? He gave social action theory. On the basis of that, he explained authority. We'll talk about that, Ankit, when I'm discussing about it in terms of Weber as a thinker. His concept is called micro for the simple reason he is interpreting every single detail of what an individual can experience, what an individual can find out. Okay, and on the basis of that interpretation, when multiple such subjectivities are studied and then a generalization is derived, on the basis of that generalization, he is creating the theory of, like, let's say, traditional action or charismatic or legal rational authority. Okay, so when we are talking about the types of social action, there I'll be discussing about this, that how the social action, first it is like an interpretative understanding of the social reality, and from that interpretative understanding, when we indulge in abstract generalizations, those abstract generalizations facilitate the process of creating theories. Alright, now getting back to the game. That means you know topics, but you don't know the in-between details and the finer interpretations, right? So you've memorized chunks and blocks, but not the finer interpretations. No worries, that will get opened up bit by bit. In social action, person just makes gestures, doesn't speak anything. No, the person makes a response. The word is response. The response can be in any form. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, but the response should be there. Then only it is considered that social action has taken place. It has got articulated. All right. Now, with respect to this. So when we are talking about it, you are like observing the microscopic details of a given society. And when you are like observing the microscopic details of a society, then only you start understanding the society. This idea was initially introduced by Immanuel Kant. Kantian philosophy is important for GS paper 4. Okay. So Kant, though he is not associated with sociology, we don't study him in sociology, but he is important for paper 4. You can expect the question, because once in a while Western philosophers and thinkers, like for example Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they are asked in previous years. In the similar manner, Kant can be asked as a 10-marker question, or some contemporary scenario or situation connected with Kantian philosophy can also qualify as a 15-marker question. Anyway, so Kant is the first person who's talking about interpretative understanding of social realities. This Kantian philosophy is inspiring whom? Weber. And then Weber gets inspired by that, and then further he is talking about observing the details, finer details of social reality, and having an interpretative understanding about those details. What's happening, why it is happening. So for example, like let's say if we speak of ethno methodology and phenomenology, they are two sub-branches of non-positivist sociology, or we can say interpretative sociology. Now, suddenly I'm bombarding with you with a lot of terms. So just taking you slightly away from what we are discussing right now, okay, which we'll be studying in the next page, like next chapter, positivism and non-positivism. Okay, if I talk about that. So positivism and non-positivism, if I say positivism, you all understand the method is natural science, right? The methods of natural science. You know that this is based on empiricism, right? This is based on observing, experimenting, all those methods of science. Natural science will be incorporated in positivism. So you'll be studying social facts or social reality on the basis of the methods of natural science. So observation, experimentation, data collection, hypothesis formation, testing of hypothesis, all those methods will be used where? In positivism. And who was following positivism? Early day sociologists. Can you recall all that? Yeah? Non-positivism. Who is laying the founding father? Who is laying the foundation of it? Weber. So Weber is laying the foundations of non-positivism. For non-positivism, interpretative sociology is also used. Okay, so that you get habituated to these words. Interpretative sociology is also used. So Weber is the person who is considered the father of interpretative sociology and who is laying down the foundations of non-positivism. Understanding this? Okay. So when we are discussing about this non-positivism will be studied by you in two more ways. So non-positivism, or rather three more ways. We'll be talking about ethno methodology. We will be talking about, so this is something which we'll be discussing in chapter 2. Here I'm just giving a brief overview of it, okay. So ethno methodology, phenomenology, and symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism. And there are thinkers associated with these three schools of thought. I just wanted to give one example of this interpretative sociology, that how it broadens its scope beyond Weber also, when other thinkers use this interpretative insight or approach in their study. For example, in ethno methodology, you study day-to-day life details. You don't need to write the details of ethno methodology or phenomenology. You'll get paras of information and all keywords related to it. So don't be under the pressure of like when I'm speaking the details of ethno methodology, noting it down, because we'll be anyway giving it to you in the next chapter. Okay. So ethno methodology, it is studying what? Day-to-day life phenomena. And when we are discussing about, like let's say day-to-day life phenomena, in that situation, we all can discuss about, like, let's say, in our day-to-day life, we use a lot of language which may not bear a direct meaning. Suppose I'm feeling thirsty, okay? I was actually thirsty. Okay. So suppose I need water and I'm telling the staff, bhai kuch pani wani le aao. So I'm saying pani wani le aao. Does wani have a meaning? Literally? No. But the fellow goes and he gets water. And along with water, suppose he gets 2 biscuits. Okay? So biscuit kyun laya? I did not ask for biscuits. But why did he get biscuits? Because he knows that every time I ask for water and if he gets only water, there's a fair chance I'll say, aise hi pani le aaya, kuch khane ko nahi laya. Okay? Suppose I'm sitting in the staff room and I just like make such a passing statement. So the person is like careful that, oh, madam is hungry after the lecture, so with water I have to get some biscuits also. So Vani does not have a meaning, but a sociologist will try to interpret, interpretative understanding of daily reality. That when she is saying chai why le aao or pani wani le aao, so why or wani does not have a meaning. But how come the person who would listen to the language would interpret that it's not only tea or only water, it also incorporates biscuits with it. And that was not like salty biscuits, sweet biscuits. Though he had an option of salty biscuits, but he got sweet biscuits only. So the sociologist will try to understand the logic of what was spoken or what was done at microscopic level on daily basis, and whatever was done, how it was received, how it was interpreted, and how it was responded. Understanding that? So how things were understood, received, interpreted, and responded. And in this entire process, when the person is making a systematic study, sociology is unfolding. In the systematic study, the interpretative or microscopic sociology is establishing itself. Understanding this? So this non-positivism is dealing with micro approach and positivism is dealing with macro approach. Can you now understand this? Easy? Right? These are new terms, but trust me, once you start understanding these terms and when you gain a sense of ease, your capability to use these terms effortlessly will be like la la, as if you are like, just having a roller coaster ride. It will be effortless. So first and foremost, pay attention to the keywords, then absorb the meaning of the keywords, then understand the wholesome, connectivity of all the related words, technical terminologies related to that word, become easy to use it, get connected to thinkers who are using that term, know the thinkers, and the concept is done. Okay? Yes, if possible, connect it with real life examples, because that makes the subject interesting. After all, it's sociology, science of society. So whatever we are learning, observing, happening around us, that is something which is going to build our reality, right? Is it correct to say that sociologists don't judge social fact as right or wrong, but only study it as a scope? Yes. Yes. A true sociologist will refrain from judgment because judgment maligns the research. Because with judgment, you influence the outcome of the research. That's why it's not advisable. It is not advisable to pass your own opinion. Okay, Shimla Center, as you're asking, whoever it is, Mrigang or Shagun. Okay, so I hope this far everything is good. Understanding this? Okay, so getting back to the game, because we were discussing micro, and I felt that as I'm discussing micro, God knows whether you are able to separate micro from macro or not. You are able to separate Weber from Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Durkheim or not. Initially, with this positivist approach, who was there? Comte. Remember that? After Comte, Spencer. We were talking about Spencer. After him, Durkheim. Remember that? So, these are the people who are observing the society as wholesome realities, like larger institutions, larger phenomena. So, they are going for macroscopic study. In microscopic study, they are going for interpretative methodology, which is also referred as non-positivist approach. And there are different ways. So Weber has his words to him, which I have already told this to all of you. And other than that also, there are three other schools of, or there are three, not schools of thought, sorry. There are three other, we can say, methodologies or approaches. So one is ethno methodology, another is phenomenology, third is symbolic interactions. Okay. This is actually the key topics of chapter 2. Key topics. Here you are getting exposed to key topics. Just knowing their names. ऐसा भी कुछ नाम है, exist करता है, future में पढ़ना है. Okay, now, so getting back to this, as we were discussing. So far all good? Okay, now, so with respect to this subjective understanding, when we are dealing with it, that it is the subjective understanding of the objective reality. So subjective understanding means you are getting into interpreting what is happening, and you are trying to understand what is happening, why is it happening, how is it happening. That is how you are going ahead with the subjective understanding of the reality. Okay. So with respect to this, when we further move ahead, so we see that first and foremost Weber is associated. So I'll just like delete this part, or rather I could have deleted. Okay. So we all can further connect this concept with few other Germans. So first and foremost, we discussed about this in terms of Weber. Okay, he is starting the interpretative school. Then we are thinking about George Simmel. When I talk of Simmel, so he is the person who is talking about interpreting. So George Simmel, he is the person he is talking about forms of interaction. In how many forms we are interacting with each other. Forms of interactions. Okay, he is discussing that. And in the types of interactions, in the forms of interactions, he is talking about, like, let's say, how we are discussing or how we are interacting, like in formal ways and informal ways. So when we are familiar and we know someone, we are having informal way of interaction. When we are not aware of someone, or it's a professional relationship, we go for informal ways of interaction. Okay, so that is something which we all can understand. So whether the person with whom we are interacting, whether the person, what kind of relation the person is sharing, that determines the form of interaction or the nature of interaction. So after Weber, after George Simmel, third thinker you can connect is, we can talk about Alfred Beerkant. So Alfred Beerkant, K-A-N-D-T. So Alfred Beerkant. Alfred Beerkant, he'll be talking about, like, sociology as a sum total of social and psychic behavior. Sum total of social and psychic behavior of person, behavior of a person that can be explained by an abstract conceptual design, by an abstract conceptual design. Okay. So Alfred Beerkant is saying that sociology is a sum total of social and the psychic behavior of a person that is explained by an abstract conceptual design. Okay, means how a person is behaving and how a person is responding to a given situation, that is nothing but it is associated with, we can say that in what society and under what, like, let us say, social context a person is living. Okay, and second thing we can say is that how the person's psychology is getting evolved and developed in that given situation. Like, let us say, if I'm speaking about the possibility, and when I'm talking about interpretation of a person's behavior, so one is associated with my personal psyche, how I have evolved as a person. So, and also the society in which I have lived in. So, like, let us say if a person has lived in some old part of a city, which has been like, let's say, quite traditional, and which has been associated with just one community. So like, let's say there is only one community living in that area, only one religious community living in that area, and the person since childhood has been exposed only to one pattern of living, thinking, praying, behaving. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is also the choices the person is making. Watching movies, interacting with other people, going to a specific school. So both the things are shaping the individual. The society in which the person is born and brought up, and also the way the individual psyche is developing and patterns of response to different given situations is evolving and developing. Both the phenomena are determining the person's behavior, on the basis of which the person's action should be interpreted. Okay. For example, one of my professors, so he is one of the most secular people I have come across. Okay, but when he visited US, and his son, who's a professor teaching in one of the universities in US. So what happened when he was visiting him, and after that one day post-COVID, when COVID was almost over and restaurants started opening, then he was like, Papa, you've been stuck in this area for past 3 months. So before you leave for India, because now you've got like the opportunity to travel back home, how about I treat you one day to the restaurant? So we can just go, we can follow the norms, and then we can respond accordingly. Now, both the children of Sir and his wife, they are non-vegetarians. All the 3 members of the family are non-vegetarians. Sir was born and brought up in an environment which was that of pure vegetarians, to the extent that not even garlic and onions were used. Sir is easy with eating garlic and onion, but he is not still comfortable to eat non-vegetarian food himself. He is fine if someone is eating non-veg food next to him, or even in the same plate there's non-veg food and veg food lying, and he is eating the veg food, someone else can eat his or her non-veg food. Now, when he goes there, so he was talking about this specific dimension, that when I went to that restaurant, my son said that you please don't go to that section, because there you will find that people who are regularly into eating beef and pork, there are huge pieces of meat hanging, and the meat is being cut and as per the size that you need, and it is prepared in front of you, and then it is served to you. So you just have to order that this is the meat, this is the portion size, these are the spices which I want to be put, and that will be prepared, and then you can just take it in your plate and get back to the table. So he's like, Papa, don't go in that section. Why? Because he was like, though I'm a vegetarian and very tolerant that someone is eating next to me, but if raw flesh is hanging in front of me and it is being cut, I will be very much uncomfortable. Uncomfortable to the extent that I may lose my appetite. Okay, so now the thing is, why is this phenomena understood by his son and respected? Because there are 2 things which are making the individual. First is the social, the environment in which the person is growing and which is determining your behavior, your thought process, and the psychological whereby you're choosing not to become too rigid, that if someone is eating non-veg food near me, I won't even talk to that person, sit with that person. That's a psychological response. And another psychological response is, fine, I won't eat, but the world is full of variety of people, diversity of people. Let a person choose his or her food in their own plates. I won't determine that plate. I'll just focus on my plate. So the psychological responses and the social responses, both clubbed together, create the response, or we can say the mechanism which is governing a human being. So when we are studying the scope of sociology, we should take both the things in consideration. Getting it? Alfred Beerkant. Okay. So he is again talking about the scope of sociology, whereby interpretations should be based on social as well as the psychological realities. Simple? Yeah. I hope now you'll remember the name, the explanation, the keywords associated. Okay. Then after Alfred Beerkant, we can talk about Leopold. P-O-L-D. Okay. L-E-O-P-O-L-D. Kya chuta? Oh, chuta. Okay. So Leopold and one V's. So one V's. That is P-W. Wait. So Leopold one V's I have given them in the notes also. Alfred Beerkant, Tony's I have given one V's. Leopold one V's. Okay. So when we are talking about Leopold von Wies, what does he say? So Leopold von Wies, he is talking about the possibility of the keywords that all humans, all human behavior can be divided into associative and dissociative. So things with which we associate and human behavior with which we do not associate. So there is dissociative behavior. We like disconnect with that pattern of response. Okay. It again varies from community to community, upbringing to upbringing, individual to individual, society to society. So associative behavior and dissociative behavior. Okay. So like let's say dissociative behavior, for example, associative you all understand, right? When we associate ourselves with a specific behavior, that yes, this should be done, like respecting parents. So everyone can have that associative behavior. If someone is making a statement that parents should always be respected in all given circumstances, and a child says, yes, that's so very true. So that is what it is, an associative behavior which you are connecting with. You are like, yes, this is something which I can associate with the speaker, what the person is saying. Now suppose there is a child from West who has been a victim of parenting whereby the parents are drug addicts, they are drug peddlers, once in a while they are beating the children, they sometimes take so much of overdose that they don't remember to get food for 2 days, children are just lying in the house, sometimes the children are feeling helpless and sitting and crying and then sleeping. So if someone is making this statement in front of that child that parents should be respected in all given situations, do you think that human being will associate with that statement? Like, how come all situations? And I have had such bad situations. Why to respect a human being just because the person is by default biologically my parent, when the person did not respect the biological reality, respect the responsibility which comes with the biological reality. Are you getting it? So there can be various situations which are constantly shaping us, which are constantly impacting us in terms of associative and in terms of dissociative behavior. Getting it? So we are constantly shaping our responses on the basis of things which we can associate with and things with which we can dissociate. That can happen, like let's say a girl who is coming from a very traditional society and suppose she studies in a township, parents have provided her an opportunity, and then after that the girl goes to city and then studies there, and suppose the parents are like belonging to upper caste and they practice untouchability in that remote area, and they tell the daughter that, see, if you are going to the city, don't forget our manners, continue with the norms of purity and pollution, otherwise it will become very tough for us to get you married. We are giving you the opportunity of education, that does not mean you forget all the sanskar that we have given you. Okay. Now the girl is like, okay. Then suppose what happens, the girl, then she completes her education, she gets a job. As she gets into a job, she develops a liberal thinking after gaining education and employment and having a completely different set of ideologies, thoughts, perspectives. Now when the parents are saying that, please observe the norms of purity and pollution, she's like, aisa shahar mein nahi chalta hai. This is not going to work. Don't think like that. This is a regressive thinking. Now her behavior is what? Dissociative with a specific practice. An individual is constantly getting shaped. The individual behavior is constantly getting shaped by what? Associative and dissociative responses. Like let's say a boy in Haryana who is staying with his friends who are like bullies, and he regularly indulges in some group fights to assert the authority. Then the boy, suppose he cracks some exam, he is also bright in studies, and he cracks an exam, gets into an academic course, and he starts performing well there. Once in a while in hostel, if there is an aggressive situation and he is going angry, then he is seeing other friends of his, they are very cool, and they are like, it is cool to be cooler. It's cool not to respond. It's cool to sometimes let things just go. And then he learns a new alternate behavior. And then after graduation, he does post-grad, then he does some research, he becomes a scientist somewhere, like let's say in different part of the world, gets exposed to multiple cultures and realities. And when he gets back to the same place of origin, where he was a bully, a local dada, when he was barely 15, 16 year old, then he has matured, his responses have ripened on the basis of associative and dissociative patterns. Understanding this? Okay. That after Leopold Wolnwies, that all human behavior can be divided into associative and dissociative, then you can further connect it with Ferdinand Tönnies. Ferdinand Tönnies. Ferdinand Tönnies, what does he say? So Tönnies says that there is a difference between of social groups that we are associated with. When I say difference of social groups, now there is like two German words again I'm going to introduce to all of you. Don't get overwhelmed. It's very easy to remember. One is Gemeinschaft, another is Gesellschaft. Don't get overwhelmed. I'll just give you a formula how to remember it. So Gemeinschaft, G-A-M-E-I-N-S-C-H-A-F-T. Okay. This is based on community. Okay. Or like let's say your own community, or like let's say family, or your primary group. So sorry. So it can be associated with like the primary group. I should put it on silent. Okay. So it can be associated with your like let's say the primary group, and we can also talk about Gesellschaft. So in the component of Gesellschaft, G-E-S-E-L-L, Gesellschaft, S-C-H-A-F-T, Gesellschaft. So this is for the larger society, community, larger society. Okay. Now, those students who have a tendency to forget the meaning, for that notes making will help in class discussion and material. Yes, Anuj, definitely. And every student has to take down the keywords or flowcharts when I make in the class and blend it with this material. I told you that because it is the first chapter, I'm going with baby walk and spoon feeding by explaining things very simplistically. You were supposed to read this and come, because I knew that it's a very technical term and topic, so you'll get lost. Henceforth, what I did was that I said that let me explain it first and foremost through flowcharts. Bit by bit, as you mature with key terms, technical details, you'll realize I'll do away with a lot of like this flowchart making. I'll push it in your department. If I have to present a flowchart, I'll give you a screenshot of the flowchart, which I can just present, and rather than dictating it on page, I can just share it in the group and keep explaining in the class. Okay, once in a while I'm just writing keywords so that these words are also there in the notes, if you can see this. This Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft and Ferdinand Tönnies was given over here, just over here. So you can see this, Tönnies. So Ferdinand Tönnies, and he is suggesting to limit sociology as a specialist science of forms. So what does he mean to say here? When he is talking about Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, please understand this term. Here it's mine, M-E-I-N. Mine is related to me, my. So anything which is close to you, like your own community, like for example, your own family, like your neighborhood, your friends, they all will be referred as Gemeinschaft. Simple? Yeah? And sell and purchase, with whom do you do? With whom you have formal relations. So the larger society is associated with Gesellschaft. So Tönnies is saying that if we want to study society and if we want to study sociology, it is going to be a study of both types of social groups which are close to us, close to our experience set, with whom we are informal, and it is also a study of those relations, those communities with whom we are formal and which are associated with the larger society. Simple? Understanding this bit? Tönnies, Ferdinand Tönnies, Gemeinschaft, Gesellschaft, and I hope you'll remember the words now. Like there is no confusion related to this. Okay, then after this, when we are going ahead with this component, after Ferdinand Tönnies, Gesellschaft and Gemeinschaft and this formal school of thought, then we move to the synthetic school of thought. In the synthetic school of thought, we all can connect it with, first and foremost, the very idea that it is associated with a macro approach, but as the word goes, synthetic, so it is also synthesis, and in which what is happening, you are mixing, you are open for like taking the insights insights or topics from other social sciences, and study it from sociocentrism. What is sociocentrism? Means study it with sociological perspective. So you are bringing the insight, like let's say you borrow the word market, the insights of market and globalization from economy. And after borrowing the insight of economy, now you are not studying the market from economic perspective. Now you are studying it from sociological perspective. So an economist will be talking about demand and supply, right? A sociologist will be like, no. Market is not only influenced by demand and supply. It is also influenced by various other social processes. So if a lot of Indians, they start watching a lot of sitcom, which is Korean. So after watching a lot of Korean TV series or other sitcoms, there will be a sudden boost in the demand of ramyeon. People will start eating a lot of ramyeon regularly. Because every time they'll see in a K-drama, people like hogging over ramyeon like greedily, and they are watching the sitcom at 11 p.m., 1 a.m., that there will be a natural urge to have it while watching it. Thus, there is a potential market getting created. So the person is paid attention to the sources of entertainment, pay attention to the ideological shifts, pay attention to the, like let's say, the perspectives which are inspiring the people. And that is also going to inspire the market, impact the market. Are you getting it? So they won't be understanding the term market and the issues related to market only from economic perspective. They will study it from social perspective. What are the dimensions of society? What is influencing the society? What are the commanding features of a society? And thus, how the, like let's say, the topic which is a matter of concern, that is getting influenced beyond the economic concern. Similarly, if there is a topic of political concern, like let's say secularism. On the very first day I said that when in sociology we study the term secularism, unlike students of political science, we won't be reading about the term secularism from political reality. We will be also studying secularism from social cultural reality. Okay, that how secularism has been a part of social cultural reality of India. Separation of power has been a part of social cultural reality of India along with being a political reality. Okay, so we have seen that blending happening continuously. So secular ideology, coexistence, tolerance has shaped the Indian society for thousands of years. The political articulation of it in India thus had to be different from that of the West, because Western experiences were different. So the same term secularism, when you are studying in sociology, the approach is very different from that of political science. Understanding that? That's synthetic school. सारे सब्जेक्ट का कान पूछ पकड़ कर ले आओ, उसको सोशियोलॉजिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन दे दो, इससे बन जाएगा वो स्कोप ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी. Okay, so what do they do? They start dragging the concepts, the terms, the issues which are taught in different other subjects. And then they try to explain it from sociological perspective. And that is how they expand the scope of sociology. Right? That makes sense? Synthetic school for all of you. Very simple. In this process, we see that Durkheim is giving grand theories. Okay, so Durkheim is also giving grand theories. If I say the word grand theory, that makes more sense with respect to Parsons. Okay, so when I say Durkheim is giving grand theory, Durkheim is giving the concept of, like for that matter, suicide. So suicide is a concept which is there in psychology. You study suicide in psychology. Why? What pressed an individual to commit suicide? What was the pressing condition because of which the individual felt so helpless? Durkheim will be like, no. When we are talking about suicide, it's not a personal psychological phenomena. Society is involved. And we will study it in sociology. From societal point of view, how the larger society is involved for the committing of suicide of that one individual. And he will say that when an individual is staying lonely all by himself or herself, then that the person will have larger chance, greater chance to commit suicide than a person who's staying with family. Then he'll give one more theory. If a person is unmarried, will have greater chance to commit suicide than the person who's married. Nowadays condition is quite different. Okay. Anyway, then he'll say that if a person is having a child, the person will have lesser chance to commit suicide compared to a person who is not having child and is traumatized in the wedlock. Are you getting it? So he'll be like, the greater the integration with the society, lesser the chance to commit suicide. And lesser the control of the society over you, higher the chance of you to commit suicide. So how much a society is reaching out to the individual and controlling the life of the individual, that determines whether a person will commit suicide or not. Are you getting it? So he's borrowing the concept from another discipline, that is psychology. I'm giving the example so that you remember. Okay. And after borrowing this concept from another discipline, he's giving a sociocentric approach of it. Right? The sociocentric approach of it. Okay. That's how it's becoming synthetic. Petrim Sorokin, another thinker, he's Russian in origin, but he settled in America, and you'll see that he initially Parsons was working under him, later they had differences. Merton gets influenced because he becomes a student of him. Anyway, so Petrim Sorokin. Sorokin, I'll be also talking about him later when I'm talking about concepts related to social change, the chapter of social change. Become accustomed to names. This is the only purpose. So he gives the term general sociology. And in general sociology, he says that the same institutions in the world, same institutions, what institutions? Institutions like family, institutions like marriage. These are institutions, okay? Family, marriage. Okay. So same institutions in the world, okay, they can have like what are the institutions which we find prevalent in the world, and on the basis of the institutions which are commonly present in the world, we can study them and then create theories. For example, family, though the size may differ, the role may differ, the cultural processes may differ, but family is an institution which is universally present in all societies, whether it is primitive or modern, it is tribal or rural or urban, right? All types of societies from past to present, and in all forms, whatever is the means of survivability. Marriage, some form of institutional recognition of a couple staying together gets recognized by the institution of marriage. If we are speaking of it in terms of religion, when we speak of religion, again we can see that though there can be different distinct religious practices, there can be a possibility that an individual can follow the a specific set of thought, a specific set of beliefs, customs, which the person is considering that my religion is validating it, hence I should behave in this manner. Can be possible. Okay. So Petrim Sorokin is talking about the idea of general sociology. Then we can talk about Karl Mannheim. Karl Mannheim. So Karl Mannheim, he is discussing about the structures of society, okay, structures and broader areas of society. So what are the structures in the society and other broader areas which can be incorporated in the domain of the society? Okay. Then comes the third phase. The third phase which we were discussing in terms of 1940s to 1990s. In the third phase, as we are discussing about it, okay, I have posted 2 diagrams in the group. You must have found it out, right? And all those students, like I think it was one of the students was asking, ma'am, where is the PYQ? It's in the group only. As you slide it up, you can find the PYQ. Okay. So you can find the previous year question. You can find questions from 2020, 2021. I hope PYQ is downloadable for all of you, right? PYQ, the previous year question. No, it's not downloadable. It's not accessible. Ayyo, why? It can't be scrolled up. Technically, it should not happen because you can scroll up in Telegram. What is posted later? Okay, not the previous thing. But that's how generally Telegram operates. That was the reason of creating the group. Okay, all right. So, and received the PDF files in Telegram. I haven't received the PDF files in the. Okay, Ashutosh, all right. So, let me look into the settings. There is something associated with the settings, not available. Okay, because you were added later. That's why when I saw that comment, I was like, how come it's not accessible? Because I've posted everything on the very first day. So that was something surprising, because every time new students get added, it will become tricky. Okay, I'll just look into the settings part and then I'll just fix it. Okay, so that we don't indulge in regular posting, because imagine, like let's say after 10 days, if there is suddenly 20 admissions, again I'll have to repeat the entire thing again. That will be tedious. That was the reason I switched from WhatsApp and I moved to Telegram, because last year this is what happened, that after around 15-20 sessions, few students got added, again 40 sessions, again few students got inducted, and it became so tedious, like pasting the same entire thing like once again. So I just want to skip that process. Okay, so in the third phase, as we are moving ahead, yeah, maybe the function is disabled. I'll just like find it out what's wrong. Okay, so in the third phase, from 1940s to 1990s, now imagine Weber has established himself. We can say Durkheim has established himself. By 1940, rather, Durkheim had died also. Okay, so Durkheim is not there, Weber is not there. We're talking about the later phase sociologists. So what are these people doing? They are blending the formal and synthetic school. Formal and synthetic school. Formal and synthetic school. School is basically, Bhanu, as you had asked sometime later, I said that I'll take that question up little later. So school is basically like you can say a group of thinkers having a specific ideology which is determining their research methodology, and which is also shaping the possibility of or the domain of what kind of methods and techniques they will use to conduct a research. Okay, so that's like having a common ideological bent of mind, and on the basis of common ideological bent of mind and common perspectives, those individuals will have a common way of researching different topics. So they will be researching on different issues and topics, but the method of research will be similar. Like when we are saying that formal school of thought, we understand when we say synthetic school of thought, we understand that both these schools of thought, they will have different approaches. Formal school will raise a boundary. It will be saying that only specific issues should be studied which are exclusive to society, exclusive to sociology, which is not studied by any other discipline. So they will go a formal way. Synthetic school will be like, no, pick up any topic, make it sociocentric and go ahead with that approach. Getting it? So formal school will be sticking to maintaining the discipline of uniqueness, something which is not studied by other like let's say researchers of other disciplines, like let's say urbanization. No one is studying it exclusively, let us study. Population, no one else is studying, let us study it. Okay, like let's say issues related to education, healthcare, no one is studying it exclusively, let us study it. Vulnerable sections, no one is studying exclusively, let us study it. But synthetic school will be like, why only to exclude ourselves to specific topics? We will study poverty also, we will study internal security also, we will study about the political system also, anything and everything which is related to society will be studied, but not from the perspective of a political scientist or a psychologist. It will be studied from our own unique perspective, the societal perspective, okay, or the sociocentric perspective. So that's how schools of thought get created, okay, when they believe in a certain set of, we can say, concepts, approaches, methods, techniques. Okay, now, so blending of formal and synthetic school happened. So here, first and foremost, we'll talk about Parsons. Parsons, you know, he went to Germany briefly. He did his higher education in Germany. And in Germany, you'll be like surprised to know that before Parsons, the world of sociology across, like we can say the world, people did not know about Weber. It is Parsons who introduced Max Weber to the world. because he translated the work of Max Weber exhaustively. Now the fun fact is that Max Weber, if you remember, he had microscopic approach or interpretative approach. Now you can recall that, right? So Weber, who had microscopic and interpretative approach, Parsons gets inspired by that also. And at the same time, if you remember, when I was using this term grand theory, I was like, not only Durkheim can be associated, more than Durkheim, the term grand theory is associated with Parsons. Because Parsons believed in studying the larger social systems. So Parsons basically blended the microscopic approach with macroscopic approach. And that's why the blending, the word in the third phase, the blending of formal and synthetic school happened in this phase, the third phase. And the first name that I have written is Parsons. His work was called The Structure of Social Action. Structure of social action. Now, who gave the concept of social action? Social action, yes people? Weber. Social fact, Durkheim, right? So, social action Weber is giving. And social action was what? An interpretative understanding of who is doing, what the person is doing, what should be perceived as the intention of the person, and then what is my response mechanism. That was social action. This fellow is making structure of social action. So structure is what? Making it like a macroscopic unit, studying it with a like larger framework. Structures are like frameworks, right? So structure of social action. The very work, the name of the work indicates the blending. You can see that, yeah? Okay. This topic, when we are discussing about scope of sociology, if you want to read it from an academic source, again, Ritzer, which I had shared, chapter 6 of Ritzer speaks about this dimension, that is scope of sociology. You have the soft copy. If you are interested, in your free time, you can just run through. Don't try to make notes. You can open this, the flow chart. You can read this, the concept which we have like given over here. And after this, you try to read Ritzer. Just one quick reading. And that will be sufficient. Okay, then when we are discussing about it, so blending the formal and synthetic school, Parsons, okay, and then the structure of social action, and then after this, we all can further work upon some other thinkers. So he also worked on social system. Social system was his another work. Later, we will be discussing about this work because he is in our syllabus. Then another thinker we can think of is Merton, Robert King Merton. So he is talking about latent and manifest function. Latent and manifest function. So latent and manifest function. Latent means hidden. Manifest means overt, visible. So like let's say a Japanese couple, or like let's say a person from Norway gets married to a woman because he loves her. So that's the manifest reason. I love her and that's why I want to get married to her and I want to have progeny from her. So that's manifest function. But then because now he's having babies, he's having 2-3 babies in a country where there is negative growth rate, the government is like he's acting like he's adding more population and he's educating the children, and those children are going to become social assets. They are going to become a part of human capital. So he is doing social service. He is doing service to nation. That becomes the latent function. So giving birth to the babies was just a manifest function because the person wanted to get married and have babies. Latent function is the hidden function that gets performed in the process. Understanding this? Okay. We'll be talking about it in greater detail. So he's talking about like, latent and manifest function, and he's also combining the microscopic approach with macroscopic approach. Combining micro and macro approaches. We'll be discussing that. You can also find C. Wright Mills. C. Wright Mills is the person who is giving the term sociological imagination. Sociological imagination. Sociological imagination. Under the component of sociological imagination, like, he is constantly talking about understanding the sociology of any given phenomena. Like, let us say, he in fact had presented his own version of sociology of coffee. Okay. Let us give a different dimension, like not what C. Wright Mills had said. If we talk about like the sociology of coffee from the perspective of India, because if I give his perspective, I'll have to talk about Europe per se, and then what was unfolding from America, and then the third world countries and how coffee pods were traveling, all that. Okay. When we are speaking it from the perspective of India, coffee and tea drinking was not a part of Indian culture, right? It came from Middle East when we speak of Baba Budan, who supposedly he carried the seeds of coffee pods, okay? Because coffee he smuggled actually. I mean, smuggled means he had 7 pods of coffee and he had tied it on his waist cloth, and that is why you find that there's a mountain dedicated in his name in southern part of India. Okay, so the Baba Budan mountain, for the simple reason that it is considered that the coffee pods were initially brought by him. It was introduced by him because strict regulations were imposed in Saudi Arabia that if someone was found that the person was taking the coffee pods away, the person was severely penalized, in certain cases even put to death or life imprisonment. In that situation, getting the coffee pods is a big deal, right? And similarly, you can see the British, they introduced tea because they got into a strained relation with China. So when they got into strained relations with China, but they were into the habit of drinking tea, they started exploring how we can grow tea in India only. So they found out that the climatic conditions of Assam, of like let's say Darjeeling, in southern parts of India, Palani Hills, they found that they are suitable for growing tea. The peasants and farmers are busy cultivating the land. So who will cultivate the tea plantations? So tribals. So let us employ the tribals for the purpose, right? So there is a lot of sociology involved. Even in a cup of coffee, even in a cup of tea, a lot of history, a lot of insight, a lot of human interaction, a lot of patterns of interaction, resistance, revolutions, revolts, isn't it? Just a cup of tea. And it can unfold a lot of sociological realities, that what is happening, why is it happening, how it is getting accepted, what responses are there, and how things articulate themselves. If I speak of it from the perspective of notes, you can see that with respect to C. Wright Mills and sociological imagination, I have provided you some insight related to what he says. So you can see that in his book, he discusses about the scope and nature of sociology in his book, Sociological Imagination, which criticized the then trend of sociology, and he advocated. What is he advocating, C. Wright Mills? A more adventurous and more imaginative study of the momentous problems of the modern society. That whatever the society is experiencing, get more imaginative. Do not stick to the older patterns, because everyone has studied family, I'll do a research on family. Everyone has studied marriage, I'll do research on marriage. Topics which are lesser studied, but are contemporary in nature. Okay. So the impact of social media on human relations. Someone like who has not done a research on that, and there's not enough reference material available for that. Do research on that. Put your imagination into action. That how some woman is watching a TV serial, she's getting inspired. Oh, this is how people can scheme and plot. So next time some relative is saying something, she's not looking straight at the relative. She's trying to find out hidden meanings. What if she intended this? What if that is happening? What if she wants to do this? Are you getting it? So now this can, and later on suppose she plots and she schemes, or she responds in a bitter manner, or she cross questions and the other person feels offended. How dare she judge my intention? Something like that. And there's a strained relationship. And she's like, no, I've seen the world is going very bitter. So what? You judged me. Something like that. Relations going like getting disrupted. Okay. Now a sociologist is studying how the relationships are getting shaped by the various social media platforms, the different sources of entertainment that people are getting exposed to. And on this, the person is doing a survey or a case study. Okay, maybe surveying a given area or different areas of India, catching hold of women of different groups, youngsters of different groups, youth of different groups, how their language is getting influenced, like let's say the aged people of different age groups, what they are watching and how they are getting influenced, okay, how it is impacting their local dynamics. If in the same family people belong to different political ideologies and orientations, how they interact when they sit together on a dining table. Maybe someone is like, let's say, supporting NDA, someone is supporting UPA, someone is supporting Communist Party of India. And these three members are in the same family. So when there is a like political crisis going on, and they sit down over cups of tea and they start discussing over the issue, how they are responding to each other, how it is shaping their relations. So this is what this person is saying, C. Wright Mills, that please move out of the box, indulge in some sociological imagination, broaden the scope of sociology. And in the process of broadening the scope of sociology, what should you do? You should start incorporating the insights which you are gaining from other situations which are unfolding in the immediate society, contemporary society, something which did not exist earlier and which is not present in the sociology books. Create that, do research on that, and thus broaden the scope of sociology. Understanding this? Momentous problems means something which is happening at the moment, okay, which was not happening earlier. That's something which we all can connect with. Okay, so everyone is understanding this bit. Then you can talk about Anthony Giddens. Anthony Giddens, till recent he was alive. Presently I am little unsure, but he is one of the greatest sociologists of contemporary times, okay. His books are massively referred in graduation courses, post-graduation courses of sociology. You are not like invited to do that for the simple reason बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, but इतना पता होना चाहिए एक basic sociology में graduation या BA करने वाला बच्चा, masters करने वाला बच्चा एंथनी गिडन्स को पढ़ता ही है. So he gave the theory of structuration, and you can remember this another key word, double hermeneutics, N-E-U-T-I-C-S. So double hermeneutics, okay. So he gave the concept of double hermeneutics and the theory of structuration. He said that first we should observe the reality, okay, and after observing, then we should understand it, okay, and then after understanding it, we should create a theory. So first observe, then understand the relevance, and then create a theory. And he also emphasized on blending, So in different parts of India, married women may or may not apply sindoor or vermilion, right? So in certain parts you'll find women will apply sindoor, in certain parts they will not. It is not only associated with religion. Women of same religion belonging to different areas will apply different sizes of sindoor or no sindoor at all, right? Different sizes means maybe in eastern part of India, as a person is moving to, like, let's say Bengal, Bihar, or like let's say to like Assam, there is a possibility a person may apply sindoor starting from the nose till, like, you know, parting the head into half semicircle, okay, like this, okay. And there is a possibility that in northwestern part of India, women are sometimes applying just a little dot. And then there are other women in northwestern part of India who are not applying it at all. They're like, if I'm married, I'm married. Why should I carry a mark of it? If the husband is not carrying any mark of it, I'm clear in my conscience that I'm married, the way my husband is clear in his conscience. So it's not ancient times that one needs to carry a mark so that she is not molested. A molester will not see whether the mark is there or not. If he has to molest, he shall molest. And if a person has to go haywire, like get into, like, let's say extramarital, just a mark on the head is not going to stop the person from getting into extramarital. So this is just symbolic. And such women may not apply vermilion. Getting it? That's sindoor. So this person, Anthony Giddens, will be talking about the possibility that try to blend and understand, try to observe and understand what the society is experiencing and why it is experiencing. All right? Understanding this bit? Okay. Last but not the least, you can also understand this. Extension of the existing schools happened at this phase. Extension of existing schools. Like, for example, if I'm talking about formal school, so formal school, remember Weber, Interpretative Sociology, okay? So formal school got its extension in the form of Ethno Methodology. Ethno Methodology, Harold Garfinkel did that, and phenomenology. So Alfred Schutz did that. Phenomenology. All right? Ethno-methodology and phenomenology. Right? All of you are understanding this? Then is the last phase, that is the present phase. When we speak of the present phase, this is associated with 1980s to present. When we speak of the present phase, 1980s to present, we can see that there are wider varieties of interest, There are a lot of topics, a lot of issues or topics got added that never existed previously, got added, right? Like for example, IT, like environment. We can also talk about defense. You can see that in the world of sociology, there is networking, biotech and health. All that gets added. Okay. You can also see, other than this wider variety of interest and a lot of issues and topics getting added, you can see that postmodernist thinkers come into existence. So postmodernism. In postmodernism, they are dealing with, like, they deal with, we all can say, meta-narratives. And they say that truth is that meta-narratives cannot exist. Meta-narratives by rejecting them. By rejecting them. Means they will not believe in grand theory. Will they believe in grand theory? No. Grand theories, they will not believe in it. Okay. Then we all can see that along with this, we can see there is no way to differentiate between what is true and untrue. Means we are living in a post-truth world. Because constantly information is getting manipulated. Doctored videos, like, indoctrinating posts, like, you can quote Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida presented his theory of deconstruction. And in his theory of deconstruction, he said that language is never capable of presenting internal, objective reality. Internal, objective reality. That's what Derrida says. Similarly, we can see Michel Foucault भी कुछ लोग बोलते हैं इनको, Foucault. I'll be quoting him even in Work and Economic Life. That will be surprising for few. Okay, so he is presenting a discourse analysis. Okay, so he is presenting a discourse analysis. In the discourse analysis, you will see that he is talking about the fact that discourses have power. Interpretations have power. The discourses have power. In ancient India, for example, we always believed in Shastrarth. So in Shastrarth, what was happening? Discourses used to take place. And while a discourse used to take place, a person used to assert his or her opinion. Whosoever was winning in his or her discourse was the person was asserting his or her ideology on others. Then you can talk about Alan Bryman. He is talking about a multidisciplinary approach. Multidisciplinary approach. Along with this, he is talking about, like, purposive research. Purposive research. Purposive means what is the core idea behind which the research is conducted. So purposive research has removed the limitation of scope. Means if you have a purpose, you can do research on any topic. Has removed the limitation on scope. Has removed the limitation on scope. Okay. So the scope has expanded, the scope has expanded further with more isms. Isms means ideologies getting added. Like Marxism, like feminism. So Marxism, feminism, they have further expanded the scope of sociology, which is not fitting into any of the brackets that we were like previously discussing. Okay, so you can just think of that possibility as well. Okay, so I hope you are understanding this bit. Okay, fine, everyone is understanding the scope of sociology. So continue working towards this. I'll post a question day after tomorrow. I hope you'll finish reading all the relevant content, this as well as what is given in the soft copy, and read Ritzer if possible. Day after tomorrow, that is, I'll just post a question and you're supposed to make a tentative answer. Write the answer and then we'll post a list of keywords which should have made it to your answer. If those words or those dimensions are missing in your answer, try to improve upon the answer. I'll give one easy question and one tough question, both. Okay, so that we get like accustomed to both the patterns. Thank you then. Ma'am, will we have online class? Yes, we will have online class on Monday, and the online students will be provided with a new ID and a password. So till today the sessions were open. They were available in open and they were accessible to all. But Monday onwards, online students, you'll realize that the sessions won't be open. That's why I was openly posting the link that whosoever wants to learn sociology can get introduced to the first two subtopics of sociology. All right. So that's it. Okay. Thank you all of you. Have a great day ahead. Bye.